Hi friends, hello. Welcome to Let's Crack UPSC CSE English, India's largest online learning platform, Unacademy. From Unacademy, you will be getting daily live classes, live tests, quizzes, structured courses, limited access to course material and videos on civil services prelims and mains. Download Unacademy Learning app, get daily free live classes. This is Kiran Anishetti, faculty for Public Administration, Political Science, Polity, and Issues in Governance. Friends, I have done my MBA, I have done my MA in Public Administration and Political Science, about to complete my LLB, got qualified UGC NET in both the subjects, Political Science and Public Administration. 4 times I took Public Administration. I took Civils Mains with Public Administration as first option, each time scoring around 55 to 60% in my Public Administration option. With regard to UPSC teaching experience, I have more than 10 years of UPSC teaching experience. I have taught in Telangana Government STIAS Study Circle, Telangana Government Minority IAS Study Circle, Super 60 IAS Academy Hyderabad, Narayana IAS Academy Hyderabad, Ten India IAS Academy Hyderabad. Have any doubts or clarifications, you can contact me on my Telegram channel, that is Unacademy_Kiran Anishetti. Today we are going to discuss development dynamics. Very, very important from public administration optional point of view. This is also relevant for developmental issues in paper 2 and for general essay. You can prepare with the top 100 educators of an academy such as Sudarshan Gujjar, Runal Patel, Roman Saini, Dipanshu Singh, etc. An academy will be covering UPSC syllabus comprehensively, such as polity, issues in governance, international relations, history, economy, geography, general essay, ethics, optional courses, science and technology, current affairs, answer writing practice, etc. An academy is offering plus subscription in which aspirant will be getting daily live classes, test series, unlimited practice, for 12 months is 44,000. If you use my promo code, you will be getting it 39,600. For 24 months, it is 64,000. If you use my promo code, you will be getting it 57,600. I recommend for 2 years subscription because 2 years will be optimum time period for the aspirant to prepare himself or herself on the lines of UPSC. Academy has come up recently with iconic subscription under which aspirant will be getting personal guidance, personal mentorship from the faculty or the educator. Personal mentorship or personal guidance is very, very important for the aspirant because aspirant needs to know the intricacies in UPSC. That can be known by the aspirant only when he or she has personal mentor, personal guidance. If you use my promo code, you will be getting 10% discount. For 1 year, it is 64,000. That you will be getting at 57,600. For 2 years, it is 99,000. You will be getting at 89,100. In addition to this 10% discount, you use my promo code I will be guiding you personally with regard to public administration optional, political science optional, general studies paper 2, general studies paper. In addition, in addition to most of the issues related to journalism. Apart from me, an academy will assign a team of expert faculty or educators who will be guiding you in their respective subjects. In addition to these benefits, the aspirant under iconic subscription, he will be getting live classes, daily live classes, a series, unlimited practice, third schedule, personal mentorship that we have already just discussed, daily questions on mains, study planner, and personal feedback. We will be evaluating your answer scripts and we will be giving our comments. Hence, I strongly recommend iconic subscription for the aspirants, especially 2 years subscription, that is 24-month subscription, because it will be optimum time period for the aspirant prepare on the lines of you. Development dynamics. Development dynamics means how the concept of development kept on changing from World War II times 2 till date. Ever since World War II till date, how concept of development kept on changing. We'll discuss. 1930s, 1940s, that period was characterized by World War, World War II. Then 1945 to 60s, 70s, era of development, that is state-led development. 1970 to 1980s, decades of transition, that more emphasis on private sector because of underperformance of public sector undertakings. 1990 onwards, paradigm shift in the development with more emphasis on governance and empowering of citizens. First, we will discuss concept of development. Development means a situation which is divided of multiple limitations, such as poverty, illiteracy, etc. Development means the situation which is divided of multiple limitations, such as poverty, illiteracy, lack of basic health infrastructure, lack of basic infrastructure such as roads, etc. Overcoming such kind of limitations, we can term that phenomenon as development. The concept of development has historic and geo-connotation. What does it mean? The concept of development has historic connotation. Historic connotation means because of historical factors, the third world countries and underdeveloped countries, they have been reeling under abject poverty because of colonization by Western forces, Western European forces, such as the British, the French, the Dutch, the Portuguese, etc. These colonial rulers, with the invention of mechanized boats in 16th, 17th century, they voyaged across the globe to find new places, to find out new markets for their trade and business. After having established their trade and business in these African and Asian countries, slowly they acquired political rule in these countries. This is how they colonized these underdeveloped and developing countries. During the rule of these colonial masters, they never bothered about the welfare of native people. They always used to oppress and exploit the native population. They used to freeze the resources of the native nation. That's why Kautilya in his Ardhashastra says, we should not be ruled by foreigners. We should not be ruled by foreigners. In India's case, Delhi Sultanate, the Sultans of Delhi Sultanate, they themselves were foreigners. Mughals were foreigners, and Britishers were foreigners. That means somewhere around 700 to 800 years, the development was put on back burner. Totally, it was neglected. The development and welfare of the people. People were left to stew in their own juice. Because of these historical factors, people in third world countries and underdeveloped countries have been reeling under massive and abject power. This is the meaning of what we say. The concept of development has historic connotation. Then what does the concept of development has geographical connotation? Geographical in the sense the Asian countries and African countries mainly bore the brunt of colonization. They mainly bore the brunt of colonization. Colonial masters colonized these countries in this continent. This is how the concept of development has historic and geographic. At present, development administration is specific to developing countries so that they can become like developed countries. Now, development administration is endemic to third world countries and underdeveloped countries, so that they can also come up on the lines of Western countries, Western developed countries. 1940s characterized by emergence of newly independent countries. Nineteen 1940s characterized by emergence of newly independent countries. Because of World War II, there were drastic changes in geopolitical scenario. Because of World War II, these colonial masters had been fleeced. They had been fleeced. They got emaciated economically, militarily, even politically across the globe. They lost their economic resources, military resources, and their political hegemony over the countries. These are not my words. Recently, Vice President Venkaiah Naidu released a book on Subhas Bose written by Mr. Day. In that book, the author adduces the letters communication amongst top officials of British Indian government, which have been retrieved from British archives. The central province governor writing to Viceroy, it is unmanageable to manage these many of crores of people in the central province with mere 13 European officers. Because of INA revolt, the Indian Indians in British Army, British Navy, British Air Force, British Police Force, they are on the verge of revolt. In the same vein, Field Marshal writing to the British Crown and British Prime Minister, the situation in India is getting worse day by day. Either we have to leave respectfully, otherwise we will be stoned out of India. We will be thrown out of India. Because of Second World War, they got totally emancipated. An interesting thing happens in Holy Mother Sharda Devi's life, the divine concern of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Many youth who plunged into freedom movement, especially the first phase of nationalist terrorist movement, participated by Khudiram Bose, Madanlal Dhingra, Prafullah Chekki, etc. These youth, they got inspired by speeches and literature of Swami Vivekananda. They plunged into freedom movement. They used to take shelter at the houses of Holy Mother Sharda Devi. Her ancestral house at Jairambati village, 100 kilometers away from Calcutta, in Udbodan, Calcutta city. Situation went to that extent. British police employed spies at the residences of Holy Mother Sharda, both at Jairambati as well as at Udbodan. Once, one renegade happened to come to Holy Mother Sharda Devi and takes blessing from her. She replies, "My dear son, do you think that we are going to get freedom out of your sacrifices? We will get freedom only when they fight amongst themselves. Only when they fight amongst themselves." Only when they fight amongst themselves. What she was referring? only when their complexioned people fight amongst themselves. जब पूरी चमड़ी वाले अपने आप में लड़ते हैं तभी हमको आजादी आए. So this is how the fight amongst European countries, which led to World War II, which resulted in total emaciation of these colonial masters. They were totally fleeced. Apart from that, two world forces emerged. Is US and the other was erstwhile USSR. Both of them were dead against colonization. Both of them were dead against colonization. Both of them were dead against colonization. Because of all these factors, colonial master countries, colonial countries, they sanctioned freedom to their respective colonies. This is how post World War II resulted in birth of newly independent country. Post World War II scenario resulted in birth of newly independent country. These newly independent countries had been reeling under massive and abject poverty when they got freedom from their respective colonial masters. From their respective colonial masters. This scenario led to the states in these countries have to play leadership role in development administration. Because of massive poverty and underdevelopment, governments of these respective countries, they had to play leadership role in development programs and development administration. They had to spearhead the development movement in these countries. This is how 1940s characterized by emergence of newly independent countries. As we have just discussed, these newly independent countries were reeling under massive poverty, which resulted in state-led development and assistance of developed countries. State-led development means in order to uplift the people from massive poverty, the governments of these countries had to run government schools, government colleges, government hospitals, government universities, government medical colleges, government engineering colleges. I myself observed how people who belong to lower echelons of the society, just because of government education, public education, they got catapulted to neo-rich culture or upper echelons of the society, at least above middle class and neo-rich culture, earning somewhere around 2 lakhs rupees to 5 lakhs rupees per month. This is how government played leadership role in the development of the people. This is called state-led development. Government running government schools, colleges, hospitals, universities, engineering colleges, medical colleges, government transport corporations like city buses, the state bus, state road transport corporation buses, government running railways at highly subsidized rates. I can travel from Hyderabad to my native place Warangal just by paying 30 rupees in a passenger train, which covers the entire distance within 3 hours. Paradoxically, after alighting the train in railway station, go to my home, I need to pay the same 30 rupees in the auto, in shared auto, not hired auto, in a shared auto, I have to pay somewhere around 30 rupees. An auto wala is charging 30 rupees for 7 kilometers. On the other hand, railways, it is charging same 30 rupees to cover the distance of 140 kilometers. You see how passenger fares are highly subsidized. This is what we call state-led development and assistance of developed countries. Developed countries like US sponsored development programs in these third world countries, technically and financially. The development initiatives based on economic nationalism, the central role of public sector, central planning, and industrial development. The development, state-led development from the independence of these newly independent countries till early 80s, development initiative was characterized by central role of public sector. Public sector used to play leadership role in economy. It ran the entire gamut of trade and business and manufacturing. For instance, in India, public sector undertakings used to manufacture right from bread and condoms, manufacturing of cars, motorbikes, and scooters. This is how public sector ran the entire gamut of trade, business, and manufacturing. This is how public sector played central role in the economy. There used to be central planning, as in the case of India. We used to have 5-year plan in which everything used to be centrally decided in this particular sector. For instance, in this financial year, these many metric tons of cement are to be produced. These many metric tons of steel should be produced. These many metric tons of urea are to be produced. This is how central planning used to prepare, it used to decide the targets, physical targets for every sector in the economy. And goals and objectives of planning used to be decided centrally. Industrial development was also used to be decided by central. There was major emphasis on massive big industries, less emphasis on small scale and cottage industry. That's what the next statement says. These projects were characterized by top-down approach. These projects were characterized by top-down approach. Top-down approach means what? You facilitate economic growth. That economic growth automatically will trickle down to the lowest level. That is up-down, up-down approach. You emphasize on major industries. By developing major industries in core sector, it results in industrialization, massive industrialization. Massive industrialization at top level will automatically trickle down and it will lead to village industry, cottage industry, and small scale industry. Because the thinking or ideology of the development during these decades. What are these decades? From late 40s to early 80s. Late 40s to early 80s. Then what does blueprint model mean? What does blueprint model mean? Blueprint model mean planning will be done at the top level. Planning will be done at top level. Central plan will be drafted centrally, and that centrally drafted plan will be imposed on states and districts, including village panchayats. That is blueprint model. Development plan will be drafted at top level. That centrally drafted plan will be imposed on states, districts, and local self-governing institutions. This centrally decided plan cannot be altered by states and local authorities. That is blueprint model. Like second 5-year plan emphasized on industrialization. That should be accepted by all the states, all the local governing institutions. That cannot be changed at middle and lower rungs. That is blueprint model. Late 60s and early 70s, it was realized that these models of development failed miserably, which resulted in rich poor divide, energy crisis, underperformance of public sector undertakings, failure of centralized planning, and blueprint model. By the time we reached 1960s, 70s, in India's case, by early 80s, late 80s, this has been proved that blueprint model, central planning, central role of public sector have been proved wrong. They have these initiatives have been miserably failed. These initiatives have been miserably failed. Have miserably failed, which resulted in rich poor divide, energy crisis, underdevelopment, underperformance of public sector undertakings. We know how Air India function, how our Indian railways function. Narendra Modi, when he became Prime Minister for the first time in 2014, fledged railway budget was introduced. At that time, Railway budget not was railway budget not merged with general budget. He mooted a very important very important one. He said in his speech, the first time Prime Minister of India addressed the nation on the eve of introduction of railway budget. On the eve of introduction of railway budget, he says in this in that speech that on one hand, the quality of road transportation is increasing. Day by day, it is becoming better. But on the other hand, quality of rail transport is deteriorating day by day. For instance, the road transport between Delhi and Calcutta is very good. Total 4 lane. I think now it has become 6 lane. And some patches, some pockets, it is even 8 lane. But the speed of the train remains same. It used to be same even 20 years before, and it is also same even now. In fact, it might have deteriorated. This is how public sector undertakings are performing very badly, very poor. Yes. The questions have been raised on the central role of public sector in economy, the significance and importance of central planning, blueprint model, and up-down approach. Actually, Mahatma Gandhi used to emphasize on bottom-up approach. First, you develop cottage industries, small-scale industries, which will invariably lead to massive industrialization and prosperity. But our policymakers, they opted Western, especially S2L USSR's model of huge, massive industrialization, giving importance and emphasizing on big industries. Anti-development thesis. This is very, very important in public administration option. What does anti-development thesis? These theorists reject Western sponsored and Western model of development. These theorists say, under the guise of development, Western countries want to exploit the third world countries. Western countries want to exploit third world countries. Western countries want to exploit the third world countries. The third world countries should develop their development plan based on their own needs, and they have to come up on their own. And development process should be designed on indigenous development models such as Gandhi's model. Anti-development thesis says that the developed countries actually they are not interested in the welfare and prosperity of third world countries. In the name of development, under the cloak of development, they want to exploit the developing and underdeveloped nations. For instance, if you see, US always promotes the research and development in their universities based on their needs, based on their needs. It never encourages research, research and development based on the needs of third world countries. For instance, US always discourages research and development on biofuel because US has huge resources of oil, oil and natural gas. When Middle East exhausts its oil reserves, when South American countries also exhaust their oil reserves, then US wants to rule the roost in energy sector. Hence, it never wants serious research and development in biofuel. That's what this anti-development thesis theorists say. Developed nations, they never interested in development of third world countries. They just want to exploit the third world countries and underdeveloped countries in the name of development. Hence, the developing countries should come up on their own. For instance, the universities, the educational institutions, reputed educational institutions like Indian Institute of Sciences, Indian Institute of Technology, they should emphasize on research and development, especially the research and development based on the needs of our country, like the research and development in biofuel. This is anti-development. And it also says the development model in third world countries should be based on the indigenous development model, like emphasizing on small scale industry, cottage industry, medium scale industry, because these industries will give massive employment. They generate massive employment. The wealth of the nation will be percolated amongst people of the country. It results in equal distribution of economic resources. This is how we can reduce poverty and unemployment. Agro-based industry by encouraging processing of agricultural products, we can mitigate agrarian crisis, agrarian distress. 1980s characterized by new right philosophy, which emphasizes on market-led development. Till now, we have discussed state-led development. New right philosophy, which got impetus in US by the former president of US, Reagan, and in UK the former Prime Minister of England, Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher. New right philosophy says private sector should play leadership role in the development. It will be a simplistic statement like country like India. Later on 1990s characterized by emphasis on governance with greater role for private sector. Government should restrict itself to core areas. The government should restrict itself to core areas and greater role for, for private sector so that competition can be fostered in the economy, which results in good quality of goods and services. This is how 1990s characterized by emphasis on governance. 2000 in the new millennium, in from 2000 to till date, there is more emphasis on environmental protection and environmental conservation because because of rapid industrialization, rap, massive use of vehicles, private vehicles, motorbikes, four wheelers, trucks, environmental pollution has been increased, which is resulting in ozone depletion, global warming, erratic weather conditions, etc. 2000 characterized by aftermath of 2000 characterized by more emphasis on environmental protection and conservation and emphasis on disaster management, especially aftermath of 2004 tsunami. There has been major emphasis on disaster management. There has been major emphasis on disaster management. Yes, 90 to 95% of disaster deaths are reported from developing countries. On the other hand, in developed countries, the disaster deaths comprise only somewhere around 5%. It is because the attitude of third world countries towards natural disasters is reactive rather than proactive. Reactive rather than proactive. Paradoxically, in developed countries like US, Australia, the intensity and frequency of natural disasters are more. But despite of that, disaster deaths are very less. It is because the attitude of developed countries towards natural disasters is proactive rather than reactive. Proactive rather than reactive. Yes, more and more emphasis on disaster management in third world countries. Even in your mains, you have separate topic on disaster management. When we used to write mains, we never used to have a separate topic on disaster management. This in itself shows the emphasis on disaster management. At present, the development administration emphasizes on empowering state. The state should play empowering role. Empower whom? To empower the citizen, empower the people. What does this empowering state means? The state should impart skills as soft skills, communication skills, human relations skills, computer skills, programming skills, hardware skills. It should impart knowledge of technology, medical sciences, engineering technology. It should own technical expertise on the part of young people, especially country like India. We have large chunk of young population. Our population is young. The average age of Indian population is somewhere around 24 or 25. If we do not utilize this demographic dividend, will turn into demographic disaster. The state ought to address this opportunity, otherwise it will turn into disaster. That is what empowering state means. That is what empowering state. Now we will discuss development and bureaucracy. How development and bureaucracy are intertwined. What kind of changes ought to be brought out in bureaucracy to streamline development administration. There is an inherent conflict between bureaucratic culture and behavior on one hand and development dynamics on the other hand in third world countries. Most unfortunate thing in developing countries is that the bureaucracies that were created by their erstwhile colonial masters, like India's case, Indian bureaucracy was created by East India Company for its imperialistic purposes. Later on, the British Crown utilized it for its imperialistic purposes. In the melee, the bureaucracy used to oppress people movement. It used to exploit the resources of the nation. It used to treat people as slaves, as animals. Now the same bureaucracy has been entrusted with the task of development of poor people. How can it perform developmental and welfareistic functions? Unfortunate thing in developing countries is that even after 70, 80 years of independence experience, democratic experience, the bureaucracies still they carry colonial hangover and feudalistic mentality, treating the ordinary people or person as a slave, as animal, as subject. Assuming themselves as they belong to a privileged section in the society, misbehaving with the citizen, behaving with the citizen with high handedness, indulged in self aggrandizement, not responding to the needs and problems of people, engrossed in corruption, abuse of authority, maladministration. This is bureaucratic culture and behavior in third world countries. And government depends on this bureaucracy for welfare and development of people. This is how there is an inherent conflict between bureaucratic culture and behavior on one hand, development dynamics on the other. Development dynamics on the other. Bureaucratic hierarchy should be made less rigid. Bureaucratic hierarchy should be made less rigid. Bureaucracy is characterized by rigid hierarchy, superior subordinate relations. It should be made less rigid. In order to change bureaucratic culture and behavior, democratic values and ethos ought to be inculcated in students right from school education. In school education, generally, especially in Telugu speaking states, social sciences are badly neglected both by school authorities and by the parents. They assume social sciences something subordinate, but the same students are going to vote tomorrow. They should know the basics of democracy. They should know the values and ethos of democracy. They should realize the significance of their voting. Value education ought to be imparted right from school education. This is how we can address the problem from the roots in changing bureaucratic culture and behavior by inculcating democratic values, ethos, right from school education. Effective administrative reforms with more emphasis on behavioral reforms. Administrative reforms, they aim at reforming the bureaucracy. Administrative reforms are of three types: procedural, structural, and behavioral. Procedural refers to changing the procedures of the government, like e-governance, citizen charter, computerization, digitalization, etc. Structural reforms involve bringing about changes in the structures, like creating panchayat institutions, municipal institutions, which we call as democratic decentralization, creating new ministries, new institutions like vigilance departments, national investigative agency, etc., integrated tribal authority with regard to tribal development, district rural development authority. All these years, there has been more emphasis on procedural and structural reforms, totally neglecting behavioral. Behavioral reforms are those aim at changing the attitude and behavior of the administrator, which aim at changing the attitude and behavior of the administrator. It may be bringing about changes in the training. It may be bringing about changes in recruitment process, the way ethics paper has been introduced in UPSC exam. It may be taking stringent disciplinary actions against erring officials. This is how there should be more emphasis on behavioral democratic decentralization, devolving more and more powers to panchayat and municipalities. Appointments, transfers, and service conditions should be based on merit. One of the reasons for massive corruption in administration is unnecessary political involvement in day to day administration. The transfers and postings of police officials and revenue officials by taking bribe by MLAs, by the ministers. Most unfortunate thing, hence, in order to change the bureaucratic behavior and attitude, appointments, transfers, service conditions be based on merit. The bureaucracy should be professionalized. More emphasis on specialists, facilitating lateral entry, optional specialization, training the civil servants on the needs and on the exigencies of development administration, imparting technical expertise on the part of the administrators. This is how bureaucracy should be professionalized. Thank you, friends. Subscribe to Unacademy YouTube channel. Share the videos, like the videos. Use my promo code, that is capital KIRAN, and get 10% discount. If you have any doubts or clarifications, you can contact me on my Telegram channel, that is Academy underscore Kiran Anishetti. Thank you. Thanks a lot.